have no gavel, so I'm knocking on the table to call the meeting to order at 7:02. And I just would like to inform all board meeting attendees, hi, shh, you need to be quiet, thanks. I need to inform all board meeting attendees that this meeting is being live streamed and archived for access at any time by our community members on the internet within 24 to 48 hours of the meeting's conclusion. And we will start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And a roll call, please.
Mrs. Witt.
Here.
Mr. Carey.
Here.
Mr. LePayton.
Here.
Mrs. Pavlak.
Here.
Mrs. Sparber.
Here.
Mr. Lawler and Mr. Rivas are absent.
And we are expecting Mr. Rivas, so he should be showing up soon. But with 5 members present, we do have a quorum. Are there any items that board members would like to consider moving from the consent agenda to new business? Anything, anyone? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. We're looking for approval of the agenda tonight as amended, and the consent agenda item number 4 has been amended.
So moved.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. Carey.
Aye.
Mr. LePayton.
Aye.
Mrs. Pavlak.
Aye.
Mrs. Sparber.
Aye.
Mrs. Witt.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Come now to the item board and superintendent salutes, which I think is why we have a crowd.
We do.
So I'll hand it over to you.
It's always great to have students here.
It is.
I'll start with Mrs. Maris, and I know Mrs. Maris was going to, there she is, okay. Mrs. Maris is going to, even though it doesn't feel like spring yet, the spring sports are underway, and we're going to take a second to rewind back to our winter season and highlight some of our winter athletic and activity students from both high school and our middle school.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, I have Mrs. Carrie Oslager here to share with us first the activities and clubs that have been going on for the winter. Absolutely.
So we have a couple people that volunteered to give some information, and we have a couple students here tonight that are going to share. Some highlighted groups this time. Our student council gave some information. They hosted the Mr. Kaneland and raised about $4,000 for Kaneland Cares. Our medical club, which is new this year, actually has students that meet with medical professionals. And they've actually had about 50 kids show up on a regular basis that are interested in medical careers. So it's Janelle McCormick from our Fox Valley Career Center is actually running that. Brighter Futures, they gave a big, long piece of information in the packet there in regards to they've been doing a lot this year with recycling, renewable resources. They did a lot in the cafeteria to make some changes for recycling bins. They're going around now throughout the building and recycling once a week. They've done park cleanup. They're doing clothing resale, clothing drives. And then the last thing that they had most recently was they went to a bee farm in Elburn and got to see how all the bees work. And our educators group has actually been working, and speaking of bees, worked with the district spelling bee this year to actually get the kids back and forth. We also have our FFA here. Ms. Heinzen is the sponsor, and she's going to come up and talk a little bit. She's got some students.
Thank you for having us tonight. I wanted just to acknowledge a couple of my FFA students that have done a lot of hard work this school year. And so back in November, we participated in the agronomy contest. Overall, as a team, we came in 3rd place. We had a 2nd place winner, a 5th place winner, and a 9th place winner, and then we had 10th place, Anastasia Kurth. I wanted to specifically point out Anastasia. I know she wasn't as high up on the individual rankings as some of the others, but she's actually a student at Geneva High School, and so she comes to our school for the Fox Valley Horticulture Program, and so she gets to participate in FFA because she takes that class at our school, so I think that's kind of a neat opportunity that I wanted to share with all of the rest of you. Then we also had dairy judging here in March, and out of over 100 contestants that participated, Zane Posen came in 1st place, so that was outstanding. Doesn't happen very often. Another student that is not here tonight, but I'd like to recognize, he was also the bee farm that they visited when Carrie was talking about the Brighter Futures Club. He's one of my FFA students. He keeps bees, and he actually builds his own beehives. And so when we participated in the Ag Mechanics contest just a couple weeks ago, he competed in woodworking, and he came in first place overall in that contest as well. So very proud of him, even though he's not here, but I'd still like to give him a round of applause. So. And then the last thing I'd like to mention is that we will be having our spring plant sale. So the Thursday and Friday, right before Mother's Day, we will be open for the plant sale. And this year, we're going to try something new and be open on the Saturday before Mother's Day and the Saturday after Mother's Day. So the Thursday and Friday will be open from 3 to 5, and the 2 Saturdays will be open 9 until noon. So please come and support us and join us in maybe buying some of your spring plants from us. Thank you.
And next up, I'd like to welcome Mr. Peter Goff.
Dr. Layden said, I'll do 3 minutes. He goes, I don't know a P. Goff that can speak for 3 minutes only. Ms. Heitzen, could you stay open on maybe Sunday morning of Mother's Day? That would help me out a lot better. If I could say something, and I do some work with the groups, but Ms. Heitzen is probably one of the hardest working faculty members and club sponsors. I mean, I'm there a lot, and guess who's there with me? She is. So let's give her another round of applause for the great job she does. I've stepped up my game again, and I have pictures of the seniors this year on my little, but the neat thing about this was done by one of our students, and in Mrs. Larson's graphic classes, and then Alexia Abruzzo helps me. I give her all the information, and she puts it on the booklet for me. So we have students doing this, so that's another nice thing that's to have for them. I'm going to do the winter sports review. First thing I would like to talk about is girls basketball, and if I could have Jenny Weber. I always call her J Webb. I go, oh, her name's Jenny. It's always J Webb to me. Let's give Jenny a round of applause real quick. Real quick with girls basketball, senior Jenny Weber will be attending Bemidji State up in Minnesota. This is going to be nothing compared to what she's going to see. But just let me tell you a few of her, the senior year she had. She was the Kaneland single season free throw percentage, single season 3-point field goal record, career 3-point field goal record, IBCA All-State 4th team, Northern Illinois Big 12 All-Conference first team, and Associated Press All-State honorable mention. What a great 4 years this young lady has had, and I am looking for great things out of her at Bemidji State. Let's give Jay Webb another round of applause. Oh, you gotta come back. I forgot. He said he wanted to take a picture. He's trying to steal on my Twitter. Our other senior athlete, and she wasn't able to make it with girls basketball, is Jamie Martins. She'll be attending St. Ambrose University in Davenport, Iowa to play basketball. She's the career assist record holder, IBCA All-State Honorable Mention, Northern Illinois Big 12 All-Conference First Team, and Associated Press All-State Honorable Mention. And the last thing about girls basketball, our head coach, Ernie Colomb, for the second straight year, was the IBCA District 5 Coach of the Year. So if you've seen her, congratulate him. And the girls lost in the regional final to Sycamore, who made it to the sectional final, but they had an outstanding year. Let's give girls basketball a round of applause. In boys basketball, all levels went 45 and 41. Blake Feza was first team, Northern Illinois Big 12 All-Conference. The other thing that I'm most proud of with this group is that they had 4 first-team all-conference academics and 4 honorable mentions for the NIB 12 all-conference academic team. Give them a round of applause. Girls bowling under Coach Beth Trafton had a great year, her first year. We got the kids out. I think we were around 5 or 6 most of the year, but they always had fun. They had a great effort, and we hosted the girls sectional. Had a lot of great compliments out of them, and a lot of the girls helped me work that day. So the girls bowling did an excellent job with Coach Trafton. Give them a round of applause. cheerleading with Chris Carter. They doubled the amount of athletes participating. The total count was 38 for the year. They were able to field a full varsity squad of 16 and a JV squad of 18. So we have a lot of good numbers coming back next year. Them a round of applause. And our last sport is wrestling. A lot of setbacks with injuries this year, but we did have junior Nathan Orozco, who was going to come here tonight, but he had practice for, I think, I don't know, Roman knuckle, or I don't know. They do all that. But Nathan Orozco, he qualified for individual state tournament, second place in conference, first place in regionals, and then second in sectionals. And that is the winner. Since we started spring, we've had one thing at home, and that was girls soccer, and I froze to death. But we have lacrosse. Lacrosse picked up their first victory last week when they beat Marmion. So hopefully we get things rolling this week, but I did hear there's snow called for next Sunday after 71 degrees. So thank you so much.
If I could just do one more little plug, tomorrow is a very big day at Kaneland High School. We have SAT testing plus PSAT, and for all of our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors with activities for the kids after they get done taking the test for our freshmen and sophomores. So I just want to give a huge thank you to Carrie and our instructional coaches for all the hard work that they've put in to make tomorrow a success. So thank you.
So thanks for having us. I'm going to call up Mr. Tom Hewells, our athletic director from Harder, and he's going to do the presentations.
Thank you again for having us. We're going to start with the girls basketball program in terms of our winter awards. And Coach Patterman, would you come up and do the honors? Girls, all of you, please also come up.
Okay, well, I'm glad so many of us could join us tonight, and thank you for having us here. We want to honor the girls because they had back-to-back conference championships. They had a 7th grade, most of the same players. We had a little different team this year, and we turned it around this year. And what made this year really special was it took everybody. We had some mid-season injuries, and everybody had to step up and play when it was important, and we had some close games, and they worked really hard.
I have a couple other points to make. We've got, I don't think any of my wrestlers came, but we had 3 all-conference wrestlers this year. Actually, 2 of them were 6th graders. We had a 70-pounder, Cameron Scholl. We had a 115-pounder, Jack Lesher, and then an 8th grader, 250-pound, Ian Englishharden. So our wrestling program, we thought, did really well this year. I'd like a round of applause for them. And then following up on Mr. Goff's bullying, we have actually just in the ongoing process, we had a sectional just Saturday at LaSalle, Peru. We sent 7 individuals down, and we've, as of today, qualified 5 of those 7 to compete at the state tournament this Friday in Joliet. And depending on how they do Friday, they could advance to the finals on Saturday. One of our highlights, 8th grader Corbin Vines this year won the individual sectional championship, and he was a second place in All-State last year. So we're expecting good things, and we'll have hopefully some nice reports at the end of May when we come back. Thank you for your time.
So on the other side, I love doing this, but we have 2 students that really made this happen. I'm going to call them up. Grace and Alexandra, I saw you somewhere. Where are you? There you are. Come on out. So it gives me great pleasure. About a month ago, we learned that 2 of our teachers were the recipients of the My Favorite Teacher Award competition through Barnes & Noble, Mr. Kevin Hagan and Mrs. Sarah Linden, who I'll call up in a second. However, I need to give kudos to Rachel Ramos, our librarian, because she was the one walking around the building encouraging students to write letters of why they love their teachers. I can tell you after talking to Barnes & Noble that these two individuals right here wrote such great letters that they had the entire committee in tears. So she made it a point, and she said, we read what they wrote, and we want to be a student in your school. It sounds that great. And so kudos to our two fabulous students, who I also asked to come as a surprise to Mr. Hagan and Mrs. Linden. They didn't know that they were going to be here. I left that as a surprise, but I know they wanted to just say a couple of words. Alexandra wrote about Mr. Hagan. Do you want to say a couple of words real quick?
I decided to write this letter about Mr. Hagan because I felt like out of all the other teachers that something was different about him, and I think that teachers deserve the chance to be recognized for what they do in the everyday classroom, because they don't. They just, maybe get something at the end of the year, but I just felt like when I had the chance to write this letter that it would do something for him to get recognized for what a great job he does as a teacher.
I chose to write about Miss Linden because she was really patient with me when I was struggling in math, and she inspires me to be a really great teacher when I grow up.
When I think of the staff at Harder, we have a staff that is completely student-centered, and these two individuals epitomize what being student-centered is. The sacrifices they make. I've actually sent Mrs. Linden home a couple of times because it was 6:30 at night and I said, go home. But she's such a dedicated employee, and Mr. Hagan is the same way. I've sent him home on a number of occasions because you're here way too late. But it just demonstrates their awesomeness. And I'd like to call the two of them up right now to receive their certificates.
Who's going first?
All four of you. All right, ready? Perfect. Thank you. 1, 2. Thank you.
Just one last note to mention is that both Mr. Hagan and Mrs. Linden will be honored at the Geneva Commons Barnes & Noble store later this month. I was also informed Mr. Hagan has been put into the pool for the national My Favorite Teacher Award through Barnes & Noble, so hopefully we'll be back here in a couple of months celebrating that too. So thank you for allowing us to do this and highlight our awesomeness. It's something that I look forward to every month, so thank you.
Thank you. One other item, I wanted to note that yesterday, hopefully you were able to come out and attend the KAI Fine Arts Festival. It was the 19th annual Fine Arts Festival. If you were here, or actually over at the high school, you saw our part of the auditorium, part of the cafeteria, and all the hallways adjacent to those areas completely full with our students' wonderful art, a number of art classes, and a number of presenters. So, again, it was the 19th annual. Thank you to our KAI for the wonderful work that they do. And when I was there talking with Maria Drips-Paulson, she said, wait till next year because it'll be the 20th. So, it should be fantastic next year. So, put that on your calendar for next year, April 7th, 2019, and hope you can attend. So, thank you for their hard work and their dedication. It's a great show every year. So, congratulations to them.
That's it? That fix anything? We're proud of everyone, and thank you so much for coming. We understand that you may not want to sit around for the entire board meeting, and that's perfectly okay at this time. If anybody would like to, take leave, and we're okay with that.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much for coming, and congratulations, everybody.
That was nice. I know it. Spoke well, too.
What's that?
Yeah.
Yep. I'll put that week up.
Yeah, that'd be great.
April 21st. I'll send it to you.
Oh, okay.
Saturday the 21st.
She's cute, isn't she?
Oh, yeah, adorable.
Pretty girl.
Yes.
Yeah.
This year. That's That's it.
She'll be in my office tomorrow. We have a meeting at 11.
You lucky lady. Oh my.
But I didn't expect her tonight. She forgot to mention.
Surprise.
I know, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the first opportunity for public comment in the meeting. There are 2 opportunities every meeting, and one's at the beginning of the meeting and one's at the end. And we do have some ground rules that we ask. First, we want to let everyone know that the board does not enter into debate or respond to questions during the public comment. We value your input, but it is a working meeting, and we just don't respond so that we can keep things moving along. We do have someone follow up, usually with people after the meeting. But if you choose to speak publicly, we ask that you stand, state your name and village of residence or your association with us for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less so that all who wish to speak may have that opportunity. You're encouraged to seek a private appointment to discuss matters concerning individual students or staff members. So having stated those ground rules, the floor is now open for public comment. Are there any public comments? Yes.
I may be 20 seconds over.
Okay.
My name is Kimberly. I am a parent in the Kaneland School District. My concerns are that you state over and over again about acceptance, tolerance, not taking sides. But these seem to be lies. I have a child who is told to delete a blue and pink wedding ring on a project. She wants to be a wedding planner because they symbolized male and female. This is not how it always happens, she is told. Delete it, she is told. How dare the school normalize a homosexual marriage to my child, my 9-year-old. I also have a child who has read, I am Muslim. They are told that not all Muslims are bad. They are peaceful people. But on the other side, they are also read stories of African Americans during the Civil Rights Movement. But they are never told that not all whites are racist and that they too are peaceful. I have a child not allowed to write a human rights paper on abortion. Her friend is not allowed to write her support of the Second Amendment. But another classmate can write about LGBT rights. Where is your tolerance and acceptance of your students' ideas? I have 3 children. These are a few accounts from across the district, not isolated to one teacher or to one school. I do not blame individual teachers. I have truly loved so many of the teachers that my children have had, and the teachers that have dedicated their time to their education. They have a job to keep. With regard to the walkout that you supported, you state again you do not choose sides. Yet, quoted directly from the organizers of that march, the Women's March, the mission is to harness political power. The Empower branch of the movement. We are walking out for all people who have experienced gun violence. It's important when we refer to gun violence, we do not overlook the impact of police brutality and militarized police, or see police in schools as a solution. This was about guns. You lie to parents, students, and you lie to each other when you state that you do not choose sides while supporting a movement with the purposes I just mentioned. Sadly, most students will not even know what they were marching for. Almost done. The administration continues to prove that there is an agenda that they want to promote. You do take sides, and they are political. If your concern was for safety of the students and wanted their voices heard, how about the several parents and students who came to you about bullying? Where is their voice? What has been done for their safety? Where were their 17 minutes? I do believe that kids want to be heard, they want to be safe, but the safety comes from knowing that the administration will protect them. And how do you do that? Enforce your own rules in your own handbook. Kids playing cops and robbers at recess, making gun shooting sounds, get reprimanded harsher than those throwing food at another, calling them stupid and fat. These kids do want to feel safe. You need to stop sending political messages trying to create warriors for a social justice agenda which only divides our students further. Stop lying and doing the job as an educator. Stop replacing parents. Give teachers the ability to control their classroom. Support them in the teaching of our children. Spend less time on cutting the budget, demoralizing our teachers and our staff. Don't undermine their knowledge and their authority. Spend your time encouraging them, trusting their judgment, allowing them to make a safe classroom for themselves. Support them when they have troubled students. Stop making them create your narrative for a story you want to tell. Thank you.
Okay. Are there other public comments? Yep. Okay.
Madam President, we need Ken's last name, please.
Can you spell it for us? Sorry.
T as in boy, A-R, T as in Tom, K-O-W-I-A-K.
Thank you very much.
My name is Matthew Beck. This is my wife, Wendy Beck. We're parents who live in Elburn. As parents in the school district, my wife and I are concerned with a few things, and we'd like to offer our help in addressing them. Some of these topics have been discussed with Principal Maris and Dr. Layden, but others are new for this meeting. In general, we feel that the communication from district to parents needs to be improved. Primarily, we believe all parents and guardians should be notified of all security-related issues, such as the social media threat that occurred on March 9th of this year. We have discussed this issue with Maris and Layden, but we want to mention it here too. If the district withholds information of this type from us, we are robbed of our ability to protect our children. Please publicly document and announce your intention to communicate any and all threats made by students within the district, as well as anonymous or ambiguous threats that require your investigation in a timely manner. Secondly, we'd like to receive more communication around what is being done to improve physical security at all of the schools. We have asked for this information, but we're told that it must be kept secret. Meanwhile, the East Aurora, Batavia, and St. Charles school districts allow details about their upcoming plans to be published in the Chicago Tribune. Please document and distribute general information about what is being planned and the timeline for those improvements. Third, we believe parents should be more involved with plans for the district. We have learned a bit about the Citizens Action Committee, but are unsure if it is fit for this task. Likewise, Josh West volunteered at the Alice meeting to head up a parent meeting with us and other parents, but he has since retracted that offer. Please announce a way for interested parents to get and stay involved with the district and its plans. Lastly, we realize funding is often a factor when making plans. We also know that there are grants available from various organizations to help fund such efforts. There are also other avenues for raising money, such as auctions, fund runs, lotteries, and etc. Please let us know which methods are acceptable to the district and how we can use them to fund your activities. Thank you for your time, and please let us know how we can help. Do you guys accept handouts, copies?
Yes. And we add them to the minutes. Thank you. Just for the record. Thank you. Are there other public comments? Other public comments? Okay. If there are none, we will close the floor now to public comments. Thanks to those who spoke. We'll move on now to our consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda contains the following action items: the approval of accounts payable and payroll for March 2018, the approval of the treasurer's report for March of 2018, the approval of minutes of the March 12th, 2018 regular meeting, the approval of the resignations and employment of staff, the approval of the destruction of audio recordings from closed session meetings from September 2016, the approval of bids of the following bids: the bid for copy paper, athletic training services, fuel, special education transportation services, snow removal services, fire systems inspection services, and disposal and recycling services. The consent agenda also includes the following informational items: the student suspension data report and the Freedom of Information Act or FOIA requests report. So we're looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended. Again, item number 4, the approval of resignations and employment of staff was amended before the meeting.
So moved.
And I'll second that. And a roll call when you're ready, please.
Mr. LePayton. Mrs. Pavlak.
Aye.
Mr. Rivas.
Aye.
Mrs. Barber.
Aye.
Mrs. Witt.
Aye.
And Mr. Carey.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Move on now to new business. The first item on new business tonight is the approval of the driver's education fee with public hearing.
I'll let Julian, Dr. Fuchs introduce that, and then I know that President Witt will have a public hearing open.
Yeah, as soon as I get to the page. A lot of consent agenda. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we will call the public hearing to order. And so I'm calling it to order now. It is 7:32. And this is the hearing on the 2018-2019 driver's education fee for Kaneland High School. And Dr. Fuchs will now give us a brief overview of the changes.
Great, thank you. Each year, the board is required to set or approve school fees. One of those fees is the driver's education fee. This fee in particular requires a public hearing prior to the setting of that fee. The reason it requires a public hearing is because we're asking the public if $250 is acceptable. That is the most that the district is allowed to charge for driver's education. I've provided the board with a summary of revenues and expenditures related specifically to driver's education. This is from the prior school year, which is consistent to what I provide each year prior to the public hearing. The total revenues in 16-17 from local fees, which are student fees, and then the state reimbursement for the 16-17 school year is $67,629.66. The total expenditures for the driver's education program for the same time period is $231,351.11. At this point, the expenditures exceed the revenues by $163,721.45. You can see from the number of students enrolled in the program, the approximate cost per student served is $1,542.34, with a net cost of approximately $1,091.48. With the cost being, the net cost being a slightly over $1,000, I feel that the $250 fee is justified. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we invite public comments specifically on the driver's education fee, keeping in mind the guidelines stated earlier in the meeting. And the board, again, does not generally respond to public comments during public hearings. So at this time, the floor is now open specifically for public comments on the driver's education fee. Are there any public comments? Okay, hearing none, I will close the floor to public comment, and I will also close the public hearing at 7:35. And at this time, if board members have questions of Dr. Fuchs, you can ask those. I actually had a question about, I forget what forum I was in, where there was an explanation was given a little bit as to why we still think it's important for our high school to provide this service. Could you go into that a little bit?
I'm going to defer to Dr. Layden on this answer.
Okay.
Yeah, we, as the state changed the driver ed flexibilities to waive, as we assessed for two primary reasons why we still want our teachers to teach driver education as opposed to not offering it through the high school. Number one, as we looked at the offerings in our District 302, we don't have a number of driver education related schools, so that was one of the reasons. And the second reason, with the number of country roads and the number of roads that our students have to travail regularly to and from the high school and the distances that we travel, we still think it's in the best interest of our students to have our Kaneland driver's ed teachers teaching them driver's ed. And knowing that people can go to other driving schools if they want, our choice is to continue to offer it at this recommended amount.
I can Other comments or questions from board members?
Question in reference to salaries, and it's including extra drive hours. Is that like a norm, or is that excessive, or depending on the how many students we serve? How does that work?
Sure. The teachers, the driver's ed teachers will drive after school, weekends, and summers. Those are considered extra hours because they're outside of their contractual day. They also schedule drive time during the school day, and they fit as many kids in there as they can. But sometimes when kids are absent, then another student might have to take their place. And so, but that student needs to still make up his or her hours. And sometimes it can or can't be done during the school day, so that's what those extra hours are for. And Mrs. Maris and I have done a thorough study, and it is more cost effective to have them do it with extra hours after school than it is to hire additional drivers during the school day for those students.
Is that does that go on to time and a half and double time, that type of thing as well?
No, we have a contractual rate that we pay for that per the KEA contract.
Okay.
It's an hourly rate. It's what the contract calls
Okay.
for.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from other board members? If there are no other questions or comments, we're looking for a motion that the Board of Education approves the resolution to establish the 2018-2019 driver's education fee for Kaneland High School at $250 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
One last question.
Sure.
So it's no longer a state requirement to have driver's ed as a part of the curriculum, if you will?
Correct. Local districts can seek a waiver if they choose to.
Okay. And we didn't?
Correct.
A roll call, please.
Mr. Carey.
Aye.
Mr. LePayton. Mrs. Pavlak.
Aye.
Mr. Rivas.
Aye.
Mrs. Barber.
Aye.
Mrs. Witt.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Move on now to item J2, which is the approval of the resolution authorizing the notice of non-renewal of identified paraprofessionals.
Yes, Mr. Atkins, I'd like to introduce Mr. Atkins, Director of HR, and he'll walk us through that memo.
Good evening. As the board knows, in the spring of each year, after we look at our staffing pattern for our teachers, we then move to look at our paraprofessionals and support staff as well. We conduct an audit looking at the needs of the district. And this year, in looking at those needs, our IEP students have had a variety of successes across the district, which then require a reduction of the adult support needed to meet their needs. When we audit all of those needs at all of our sites, we needed 12 and a half less paraprofessionals for this coming school year than we did currently. Additionally, in looking at our budget constraints for next year, there was a programmatic decision at the middle school level to reduce the RTI paraprofessional, which then resulted in a 13.5 reduction, or 13.5 FTE reduction of staff. But because some of those positions are part-time, it ended up being 15 people. Some of those people are 0.4, 0.5 positions. So this is an honorary dismissal. So like with our teaching staff, these teachers have done nothing wrong. In fact, they are our frontline troops with our students. They do a wonderful job making relationships and supporting students in their work in the classroom and around the school, and they're to be applauded and recognized for that. Unfortunately, there's just a confluence of need, IEP needs, and time in terms of when those students are doing what they're supposed to do and needing less adult assistance. And so we are required to reduce those staff. So you'll have the resolution there in front of you, and I'm making a recommendation to approve that resolution, reducing the 15 staff members. Please know that under the law and with the contract that we have with Speak, they do get recall. I think it would be important to point out that last year at this time, based on those same needs, we reduced 13 staff members. One moved away with their spouse, the other two went back to school, and all of the remaining staff members were rehired. The 15 staff members that are being reduced in force tonight includes only one person that was hired last year. The rest were all hired this year. And I share that as an illustration of the mobility of the position and the ongoing needs that you as the board well know Students we're in the middle of the IEP season, as it were, in terms of planning for next year. So it's entirely possible that coming up in late April and May, there may be more needs that come to us, plus move-in students over the summer. So as you're familiar with from last summer and last fall, we will most likely have those recurring needs, but as of today, we do not have those, so thus the reduction in force. So does the board have any questions?
Questions? Anyone?
So legally, we have to tell these people that we don't think we have a job for them next year, but we probably do, but we have to tell them no now, just so we don't get caught with more staff than we have people for?
Correct.
Okay.
Questions?
I sort of made my point. This process is brutal.
Yes, it is.
To everyone involved.
It is.
It does.
I don't know that there's a solution other than having to continue to follow through the process. And if some other district has found a way to do this in a more humane way that doesn't cause this impact on the teachers and everybody has to go through this process, I encourage you to seek out a best practice to change this, because every year we go through this. It doesn't seem like the most productive use of anyone's time or energy, and the price that it costs is pretty high in terms of wear and tear on people. So I understand that we have to do this, but if there's any alternative out there that can be found, looking into the future, please continue to seek for those
Absolutely.
options.
The reductions in force are done according to school code, and those school codes are probably 85, I believe, was when that time frame was put into play. So it is maybe a little outdated, and I know that this conversation is being held in every district across the state. So, yes, it's unfortunate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
We do have that discussion. When the people are notified, there is, it's all explained, I'm sure.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
these
That it's a
conversations
legal
are all
requirement and,
the staff involved.
okay. That's good, thank you.
Both certified staff and support staff, there is timelines in which you have to do this at a public board meeting, and so we follow those from year to year.
Fully understand.
Yes.
Correct. That being said, I move to approve the memo as presented.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Mr. Carey that the Kaneland Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing the honorable dismissal of certain educational support personnel with great regret expressed by the administration and the board.
I'll second it.
Okay. And a roll call, please, when you're ready.
Mrs. Pavlak?
Aye.
Mr. Rivas?
Aye.
Mrs. Sparber?
Aye.
Mrs. Witt?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mr. LePayton?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. And that concludes our very brief new business tonight. We are now at the superintendent and board report.
Yep, I have a few updates. First one, Wednesday night, April 11th, we do have our incoming sixth grade parent night here at Harder. So those of you that have incoming sixth graders, we look forward to seeing you Wednesday night. Next Monday, we have our quarterly foundation meeting. That's Monday, April 16th, and I know Shauna is scheduled for that one. Then the following night, Tuesday, April 17th, is our next negotiation session with Speak. So we do have one before the next board meeting, which is April 17th. And then Thursday, April 19th, is our next and last CAC meeting of the year. And as you know, at that one, we look at new members. So in May, we will bring you the FPC, FAC, and CAC new members. And that's Peter, and you're scheduled for that one on the 19th. And then, as I mentioned, FPC, that is Wednesday, the 25th. That is our second meeting of the year. We're going to be reviewing bylaws there. It's the first time since I've been here that we've had a chance to look at the bylaws, and we have to do them every 3 years, so we'll be reviewing bylaws. And Teresa, you're scheduled for that one.
Let me know if you can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then, yes, if you can't, if anybody can't make those, we do have a secondary for each of those, and we'll reach out to the secondary person. And those are the ones I have. I know Dr. Fuchs had one or two.
On Thursday night, the Finance Advisory Committee, FAC, met. Mr. Carey was present for the meeting. Thank you. We had a quorum, so that was excellent. At that meeting, we reviewed the new members for next year and elected officers. I'll present that information on a follow-up report in May, combined with CAC and FPC, so you could see all members at the same time. One of the best accomplishments of the FAC from this past year was their participation in the audit process that led to a new auditing firm, which I'll be meeting with in just a couple weeks to get started. Let's see, and Chris Bowling, which you'll know when I send in the May meeting, he resigned as chair, but he is staying on FAC, and George Castellis was elected new chair for next year, which he has served as vice chair for many years, so it's a nice, smooth transition. So we did, we're going to approve to recommend to the board that 3 new members be added, so that will help to bring our numbers up to 15 members. So, thank you. My second message then is on the evidence-based funding model for the state of Illinois. We received notice last week that the state had finished their calculations. Kaneland is considered a Tier 2 school. There are 4 tiers, if you'll recall. The first level is the tier that is the least wealthiest. Tier 4 is the most wealthiest. When you're talking about wealth, you're talking about local wealth. At Tier 2, what that means is when the state has an additional amount of money that they can put toward the model, they've done so. I believe they put in $3.6 million, if I'm not mistaken, toward the state. Our portion of that money is a little over $116,000 that will come to us in the form of general state aid, but it's no longer called general state aid, it's called evidence-based funding. That funding comes on a regular basis, twice a month. They plan to distribute that $116,000 between now and the end of the school year in equal installments along with the rest of the base payment. It is not expected to be delayed like our categorical payments, where the state still owes us a little over $1 million. It is money that we will actually see, I do believe. I have no reason not to believe that. You might be asking, well, what will we do with the extra money? We will put that towards our $1.5 million deficit for this year. So.
Is that recurring, or is that just if they have extra money? Like, is that a year-to-year decision?
It's a year-to-year decision, Shauna, but from my understanding, next year's model will start with where this year's left off, and then next year perhaps they'd have more. Part of the bill was that there was a hold harmless, so our base funding is what we received last year, so this is just a little bit more than that.
But next year's base will include the 116?
That's the way I understand it.
Okay, how many categoricals are they behind?
I believe right now it's 2.
Okay.
Well, that's good news.
It is good news. It is. Thank you. That's all I have for tonight.
Okay. I did want to mention, I'm sure everybody saw in your district email that the county is asking for our statements of economic interest, and those are due by May 1st. They get pretty persistent if you go beyond that. I can tell you from experience. So
I got mine in this year.
I did too, already. Mine's in.
And it does, sometimes the system works as far as logging in, and sometimes you have to contact a bunch of people, so just leave yourself time to do that.
Just be sure that you write down what your thing is, so you have for the next time.
That's just a reminder.
I got 3 notices already.
Yeah.
I did it today, but I figured out they send it to the email address that you're supposed to use for your login. So if you look at whatever email it came to it, that's, because I had to call last year and couldn't remember how to do it.
For some reason, I have to call every year. It never works for me the same way. The second time, so.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else?
No.
Okay. Next item is topics for future agendas. Any suggestions from board members? Anything?
I think I have one.
Okay.
Looking through the legislative update that comes out every week, one of the bills, HB 4352, would allow school districts to discharge any mandate that is unfunded by holding a public hearing, meaning any mandate from the state. So that to me seems like something that we should keep an eye on and possibly, they give us, the last one I saw was 14 pages of unfunded mandates was the last session. So.
This was HB what?
HB 4352.
43.
So I'm wondering if there's other mandates that they are passing along to us that they aren't paying for that we could currently get rid of.
We will update those and look at those. Unfortunately, in each session, they
may never make it through.
Right. Well, and I went to a forum down in Yorkville last month, and they regularly, one of the things that the legislators talk about is trying to minimize the unfunded mandates, yet they understand that there will be some, but they are doing their best to try to minimize those. So as we get more and more of those updates, I'll be sure that we contact our legislators, because we also get the emails too that say, please oppose this mandate, please oppose, different mandates, contact those based on your school district, so we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So we don't need to thumb up or thumb down that one? Okay.
I will forward that information.
Are there any other topics anybody wants? Okay, I know we still have some that are outstanding, so that we're going to get to in the next few meetings here, hopefully. So if there are no other topics for future agendas, this is the second opportunity, actually the third in this meeting, but the second opportunity for general public comment. So if you have anything you'd like to speak about in public comment, the floor is now open with the rules mentioned before.
Would this be if I asked for number 11, who you approved for the fire suppression inspection? The company that you approved? Would that be, is that what this time is for?
You can speak on anything. We won't respond at the meeting here. If you have a request for information that would be a FOIA request that needs to go to the district.
Okay. No, that's
Other public comments? Okay. Hearing none, I'll close the floor to public comment. And we do have an executive session tonight where we do anticipate action to be taken following the session. So once the executive session has concluded, the recording will begin again and include the action taken by the Board of Education once we reconvene in open session. So at this time, the recording stops as we go into executive session, but it opens up or starts again once we open up in open session to take action. So at this time, we're looking for a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
And a roll call, please. Oh, wait, sorry. My bad. We are going into the executive session tonight to discuss the following items. Student disciplinary cases. The appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. We're also going to discuss security procedures, school building safety and security, and the use of personnel and equipment to respond to an actual, a threatened, or a reasonably potential danger to the safety of employees, students, staff, the public, or public property. And we'll also be discussing collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. So I apologize for not stating those at the beginning. If anybody would like to change their motion, please do so. But otherwise, the motion has been made and seconded, and we'll have a roll call.
Mrs. Barber.
Aye.
Mrs. Witt.
Aye.
Mr. Carey.
Aye.
Mr. LePayton.
Aye.
Mrs. Pavlak.
Aye.
Mr. Rivas.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. And the recording will stop at this point. So it is 11:04 and we are back in open session. And we are looking for a motion that the Kaneland Board of Education approve the expulsion of student number 2017-18-01 for the rest of the 2017-18 school year and through the completion of their high school graduation requirements, and that said expulsion be held in abeyance pending successful progress at the Kane County Regional Office of Education Safe School. This recommendation is based on the terms shared in closed session.
So moved.
Second.
And I need a roll call.
Brian.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Me. Pedro.
Abstain.
Mrs. Barber.
Aye.
And Mrs. Witt.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 5 ayes and 1 abstention, and the motion carries. And now we need a motion to adjourn at 11:05.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in
Come
favor?
on.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Done.
You and Ryan are both.
It's almost midnight.
We are adjourned.
Silent.